Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media with the Trump tweet decodes for the end of the day, May 28th, through middle of the day, May 29th. Now, if you want to read these tweets along with us, just look in the description box and you're going to see a freestanding article. It has the video and the tweets on it, and you can follow along there. It also makes a convenient URL that you can pass along and maybe bypass some of the censorship you may be experiencing. For those of you who live outside of the United States, don't forget, now we have an app for Android and Apple. You can find it at Google Play and Apple Store for the American Intelligence Media. That way you can stay in touch with all your favorite channels plus our channels and not worry about, again, another level of censorship. We do recommend that you subscribe to our blog called truthbits.blog, where we will be posting all of these Trump tweets so that if the Truth Ministry decides that it does not like our interpreting these Trump tweets and removes us from YouTube, you will still be connected to us. That's a mouthful. Okay, ready for the first tweet, Thomas?
Yes.
Okay. A Democratic lawmaker just introduced a bill to repeal the GOP tax cuts. No chance. This is too good to be true for Republicans. Remember, the Nancy Pelosi Dems are also weak on crime, the border, and want to be gentle and kind to MS-13 gang members. Not good.
You would think these Democrats were Republicans. I mean, they are the best guys on the Republican team, these Democrats, coming out and saying they want to repeal tax cuts. That shows the insanity. We were saying this the other day. How many times has Pelosi declared the apocalypse since Trump took office? I mean, how many times have they said it's the end of time? How many times have they said that these people are completely out of their mind? They have nothing to stand on, and Trump is laughing at them. He says no chance because, first off, a repeal of the tax, no, that isn't even technically possible. Secondly, it would never have the votes and it would never get past his veto. So this is funny. Nancy Pelosi is also one of the best people on the Republican team. Every time she opens her mouth, she embarrasses the Democrats completely and says insane, crazy things. But of course, Democrats really don't pay any attention to politics. And they sure don't pay any attention to the words coming out of Democrats' mouth. That's just the way that it is. Or they'd say, well, they're all liars. Everything they predict doesn't come true. Every time Schumer opens his mouth, it's a lie. Every time Pelosi opens her mouth, it's a lie. And then anything they predict never comes true. So I think that is great. I think they're wonderful Republicans. They're helping out. They're going to help that midterm to make sure that Trump stays in office and doesn't have stupid impeachment charges brought against him by people who are guilty of the very crimes that wish to impeach him.
Well, the thing is that I don't think they were paying attention to Mother Nature. They weren't paying attention that the aging process is going to continue with or without them. Nancy and Dianne Feinstein and John McCain, you will not live forever. And so they didn't get their bench, the people that are coming up through the ranks in place because they didn't want these people in place. So what we're looking here at is an aged, infirm, ill Democrat Party which is not able to raise the funding it's needing, and they don't have anybody following them to take over. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yes.
California has a rare opportunity to turn things around and solve its high crime, high tax problems along with so many others. On June 5th, vote for GOP gubernatorial candidate John Cox, a really good and highly competent man. He'll make California great again.
California is still part of the union?
Yeah, still is.
I thought Jerry Brown seceded from the union a long time ago, and then about 2 days later needed federal help to help him on 5 different emergency fronts. If I'm not mistaken, pretty much I thought California is going to be its own country and going to be divided in 3 and half given to the Mexicans, a third given to the Mexicans. Really, California? Can you imagine a Republican coming to be the governor?
Well, it's not that the
California
governor
at this particular junction in time. That would be tremendous.
Well, it's because he would have the veto power of some of these crazy legislative actions. That's really why. But here's the thing, Thomas. We elected Donald Trump. He's our leader. We all need to get behind him. we're going to focus on this for the next, 6 years. We're going to get behind our leader because he's really listening to we the people. And one thing we said is we've got to get borders around this country. We've got to zip up, batten down the hatches, because there is a war going on to take down sovereign nations. And we're seeing it playing out in Europe. And I don't want it to happen here. Well, the weak spot right now is sitting in California. They've still got a gate open down there and it needs to be closed. There are good people in California that want this to be done, but you've got these corrupt globalists who hide themselves as Democrats and some Republicans who don't want it to happen. So folks down in California, get behind Donald Trump. He's our leader right now, and he's saying to close that border wall, we need to get people in place politically that will get that done.
Now, I don't know if the 2.5 million illegal voters from the last presidential election in California have actually been called out, or if they're actually going to demand some type of ID or a proof of citizenship, or in fact a voter card, or in any way attempt to stop the corruption in California elections. But until they do, I don't have much hope there. But I love it when he basically brands a Republican candidate as being a MAGA candidate, because if you're not on board with Trump, like if you're not on board with these tweets, you're just listening to false news. If you take out Fox News, with the rest of the mainstream media, 97% of the reporting on Trump is negative. And they're lies. 97% of what is being reported about Trump is a lie. Don't even turn on mainstream media. Boycott it. Go to his tweets and figure them out, because that's where you're going to find the real news. So what's he really saying is we have a chance now that he's president to perhaps have a legal election in California.
And to keep in mind that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to start jumping in the fray and start interpreting these tweets. And that's great. We want everybody to read them daily. And we want to see everyone in the independent media picking them apart. And Betsy and Thomas challenge anybody out there, including Fox News, to show us that you're better at decoding Trump tweets than we are. Moving on to the next one. Democrats mistakenly tweet 2014 pictures from Obama's term showing children from the border in steel cages. They thought it was recent pictures in order to make us look bad, but backfires. Dems must agree to wall and new border protection for good of country. Bipartisan bill.
So what he's saying is the only obstruction to the wall is the Democrats, and that they'll go so far as to print salacious pictures implying that Trump put children in cages. He didn't invent these crazy Obama laws that have to do with immigration, which aren't even laws. They're just orders from the executive office telling Homeland Security and Border Patrol and immigration what to do and to break laws like DACA, the whole DACA deferment. That it was illegal. It was contested in court. And it never actually finished being processed in the court because it was stalemated. But the point is that it wasn't legal, and neither is catch and release, and neither are anchor babies, and neither are any of the DACA children or DACA themselves, or anyone who is undocumented is illegal. They are a criminal and needed to be treated like a criminal. If that is not a foundation of America, we do not have citizens. We have basically a place for anyone to come and to take advantage of basically taxpayers. Who pays for all these people? Do the Democrats, what are they going to do? They're going to raise taxes so that they can knock down any borders that do exist and invite everyone from Europe that is overflowing. But look at what's happening in Europe. Oh my goodness. They're attempting to turn away 2/3 of the supposed refugees and asylum seekers because they were found not to be not from the country they say they were from, that they were not who they said they were, that everything about them was false, and basically they're just radical Islamic terrorists who have come for a somewhat gun-free revolution and
it's called an invasion.
Crusade invasion of Europe. And we are now seeing every single day, countries in Europe are saying they're done, they're overwhelmed, there's nothing they can do. They've lost. So we were just discussing this morning in the conclave, really, how many countries are left in Europe? Certainly Britain is gone. We see that now with what's happening with
Tommy Robinson.
Tommy Robinson and others.
And
but Tommy
Julian
Robinson's,
Assange.
that's the tip of the iceberg. No one can speak anything in Britain against anyone Islamic, even if they're raping their daughter or killing their wife or stealing their goods or you can't even ask a question. Someone was put in jail the other day for asking a policeman why the police were not making the
arrests.
Well, why they were making British citizens obey the law, and then right in front of them, migrants were breaking the law and nothing was being done. And they were saying, what's this double standard? They put her in jail. They put a woman in jail for hate speech the other day for just asking a question. I believe that Julian Assange is in jail because he questioned the British government over a national security issue of that gassing of those two ex-Russian spy, which was fake. We now find out it's fake. And Julian was right. But where is he? So we see now in Britain, in France, in Germany, oh my goodness, the statistics in Germany are so depressing, I'm not even going to go over them.
And you would know this if you get Truth News headlines each day. Now, we don't have time to always post the articles that we refer to here on this blog, but if you go to aimfortruth.org and subscribe to the daily news, you'll see all this amazing stuff that's coming in from citizens around the world.
Paris is trying to clean out their tent cities. They're trying to clean. Oh, it's unbelievable. And they're getting such resistance that they're losing. And then they get police no-go zones. They can't even go in there because they lose the battle if they go in there. So they offered money to 2/3 of these migrants in Germany, and not a single one of them would go back home. So then they demanded repatriation, and not one of them would go home, even when ordered to do so. So what we have here is an invasion that was thought out ahead of time, and the goal is simply to, in one generation, make sure that there are no Christians left in Europe and that there are no nations left in Europe. It's as simple as that.
Well,
that's what would happen in America also if Obama would have continued and Hillary would have continued his plan.
Well, it is a plan. Can you imagine sitting them around and go, well, how are we going to take over the world today, Binky? And they go, well, why don't we just have one of those old-fashioned invasions? And that's what they've done. And so that's why it's very important that we do not support any politician up there, any that even speaks or whispers about not having a wall or even offering any kind of amnesty. I'm telling you, I'm hearing Republicans, even some from the Freedom Caucus, talking about that. No, we have to put our foot down, patriots, and we have to say no more, because it is not about immigration. It is about invasion. So another thing, too, here I noticed in that tweet is that he says Democrats mistakenly tweeted 2014 pictures. I think the president is being very generous. I want to say that I think that Democrats are just stupid. They're plain stupid. They took a picture. They didn't bother to do the research because they don't do the research and they don't tell the truth. They took that picture, and it's more than what he's saying here. They actually put it on Ivanka for doing this and being responsible for it. Do you see how egregious this is?
And then they show the children in cages that were supposedly taken from their parents, which were from 2004, with an Obama policy, not a Trump policy, with pictures from 2014. And then they show pictures because Ivanka put a picture of her holding her child. They say, look, this is horrible. Her dad takes children away from the parents, and then she has the audacity to show a picture of her with her child. These are very sick minds. And this indicates that they have nothing left to throw at Trump. So they throw at Trump Obama crimes, and then when they bounce back on them because of the Trump effect, we just get to see again who Obama really was. Obama was putting children in cages. This is amazing. I doubt there's any children in any cages right now. Certainly not cages like the ones that I saw those children in. That is in fact, that is a civil rights crime. Obama took those children from the parents and then put them into slave trade. I was just reading an entire article that was highlighting a variety of situations where these children were separated from the parents at the border, and then they were shipped off to slave farms, and they were treated as slaves. This is what Obama was doing, and yet they want to accuse Trump of doing something wrong. Trump couldn't stop the 285 or so people who entered over the border, not only because Obama's laws, because of the orders that he's given to Border Patrol, because of the standard operating procedures that have been used at the border, because there are no people in Congress actually addressing the real issues of, can we go back to the basics of what immigration is? What is a citizen? Do anchor babies constitute citizenship for their parents or for themselves? Or What about chain immigration? What all these things? They're never addressed by the Democrats because the Democrats want the rich people who pay them money to have cheap labor, and they want those they want the people who are going to vote for them because they tell all these people they allow to come across these open borders that it's the Democrats who support them. So they vote for the Democrats. That's a lie. The Democrats don't support you. They support more taxes. They support more social service. They support more entitlement, but they certainly do not improve the lives of these people who are voting for them illegally.
Next tweet. We have put a great team together for our talks with North Korea. Meetings are currently taking place concerning summit and more. Kim Young-chol, the vice chairman of North Korea, heading now to New York. Solid response to my letter. Thank you.
The letter was the letter he sent Kim Jong-un saying, I'm backing out of the summit because you said horrible things about Michael Bolton and Pence, and because you were threatening to back out because we were having war games in South Korea. And let's remember that he only did that after he talked to the premier, as I like to call him, Premier Xi, the ruler of China. And I should make that the single solitary ruler of China, the totalitarian dictator of China. Once he talked with him, did you notice that Kim went south? And I don't mean South Korea. I mean south on the deal. But that was because China said, we're not going to help you clean up the radiation. Yeah, we want your goods. Yeah, we want you to be a manufacturing hub for us. And that's what they keep promising them, though they never fulfilled that, Chinese promising North Korea. What is really going on here is a battle between Trump and China. We say this all the time. I saw 2 articles yesterday by very brilliant people stating the same thing that said, no. Has nothing to do with North Korea. Nothing to do with North Korea. China would stop North Korea if they thought they were a big threat because they are their neighbor. But they're more than their neighbor. They're their megaphone. So what do you hear now? You hear, oh, now, isn't it awful? Kim had North Korean hackers go after South Koreans while they're discussing peace. Lie, lie, lie. That was China going after South Korea exactly as I warned everyone would happen, and try to blame it on North Korea because Eric Schmidt's over there helping China become more totalitarian in a digital way, along with the Breyer family. And he is working against South Korea because, as we tell you, when North Korea unites with South Korea, they're going to be an awesome manufacturing company for America. They're going to replace Taiwan and China and Japan altogether. And so China has to stop that. So it's really a war between between Xi and Trump is winning. Trump has slapped down China so many times now for intellectual property theft, with the phones, with the computers, with the technology. It doesn't matter. With the microchips, all of it. He is winning. No one's ever won against China. So what we really need to look at is, where's the new manufacturing hub going to be? And that's going to be a united North and South Korea. And that is what Trump is telling Kim. Now, if Kim wants to continue on his insane, I love it. China said that Korea is, North Korea is being rational, and what was the other word? Well, they're not rational in any sense of the word. Kim is in no way rational, and measured or something like that. He is no way measured or carefully going into this. He had to leap headlong into it because he blew up his own nuclear facilities. He collapsed the whole mountain. He contaminated China and South Korea. Everyone knows this. Trump didn't want the cleanup. So Trump he's playing hard to get because he's not going to go in like an Obama or a Clinton or a Bush and just give them all the money they demand because they're threatening to kill us with bombs or whatever. That's what we did in Iran. Did that work out well? That's what we do with radical Islamic terrorists. How's that working? Well, it doesn't work with anybody. You have to stand up to these people threatening you, and you have to use a superior force, but a greater logic. And in this case, trust the plan. Trump's plan. What is the plan? He ain't telling nobody. How many times does he have to say that? He said it in the debates. They said, what are you going to do? They ask everybody, what are you going to do in the debates, the presidential debates? And they said, well, I would bomb the nuclear facilities. One candidate said. Another one said, well, I would do this, I'd do that. And when it came to Trump, he'd say, I'd slap China.
And people were aghast. Because, see, the fake news media was trying to point us as to North Korea all the time. And here was Trump. And he just says, China. Let's look at China.
Slap China. In the face, I think he said. But anyway, the point is that's what we say. We have to slap China down. I call it a bitch slap. Sorry to use such crude words.
Okay, let's move on to the next
But that's what he did to Kim. But I told you, when he did it to Kim, he did it to China. This is a war with China, and Trump is winning.
This is a quote from Molly Hemingway. This investigation involved far more surveillance than we ever had any idea about. It wasn't just a wiretap against a campaign aide. It was secretly gathering information on the Trump campaign. People call that spying. This is unprecedented and scandalous. You know, he needs to quote Betsy, and we would get a lot further in this narrative than waiting for mainstream media to catch up.
He can't add your words, Betsy. Sedition, treason, military tribunals,
right.
Hangings, and
right. But at least my patriot friends
and the gallows. I mean, he can't quite go there yet. He has to let
our
the authorities
patriots
go there.
Can go out there and they can start talking about this.
So thank you, Molly Hemingway, for saying it in a nice way. She used all the key words. Right now, they're tripping out on the word Spygate.
Oh my gosh, have you seen
he has
the media?
Branded it.
Uh-huh.
And they all have a big brand on their forehead. How many people have the brand? They're all trying to get it off, but we can name like 38 of them. These people who did this created a conspiracy to overthrow the United States government. What did they think they were going to do once they overthrow Trump? Put Hillary in the presidency?
They didn't think it out.
No, that's what they said up to a year later. You had mainstream media screaming that it's not too late for Hillary.
No, they were going to get rid of her. They would have found a way. She's so ill and frail, and would have put McCain, what's his name, Tim Kaine in there. Oh. That's who they wanted, and he's tight. You talk about a relationship with the Vatican there.
He was bought and paid off for when he was a Jesuit associate.
Yes.
But anyway, so Molly Hemingway is saying what Trump would like to say, but it's said in a nice way because he's got to deal with what is open knowledge. And unfortunately, he has to deal with what's in mainstream media, so he has to show that word spying is real. When Clapper turned around and said, yes, we did, but we put informants, not spies. Okay, take him away. Why wasn't someone handcuffing him when he walked off of that stage, admitting his sedition and his treason? There's no such thing as legally putting an informant in the opposite campaign's efforts.
Obviously, these people have a problem with the English language, and it started with Bill Clinton, who couldn't define is, and now we have Clapper, who can't define spy.
And once he was duly elected president, and then they got the probably third or fourth FISA warrant, this one on Carter Page in October, just before the election. Why would they need that to go after Trump-elect and to go after President Trump? That isn't an informant, Mr. Clapper. That you just became a foreign agent. You just became a war actor attacking the United States government, the president, the United States Constitution, and basically the entire federal government, since he runs the federal government. There's no such thing as him sitting there saying out loud, yes, I put an informant in there. That's like when he said, no, we don't surveil anybody.
Well, he's
and then he later
enemy.
said, well, we don't surveil them as far as I know. And then later he said, well, we don't surveil them and keep it as far as I know. And then he said, well, we do keep it, but we don't target it. And then he said, he is a liar. He needs to go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. He needs to go straight to jail along with the people who perjured themselves.
Tell me exactly.
That's the point.
Who would arrest him?
My next point is there is no Department of Justice. At this point, it does not exist. We see crimes being committed on national television and no one's being questioned. No one's being brought in for questioning. No one's being told to stop the leaks, even though we know that Clapper was one of the major leakers, even though we know Comey was paying someone to be his leaker. his friend, I forget his name, Daniels or whatever. Anyway, the guy who leaked it to the New York Times, his friend, and then he said, no, that's my lawyer. And then he said, no, we're paying him. Or he's not paid. Well, he is paid, but he's an unofficial, unpaid. But he's official. He's on the records. He's SES. He's paid. So what we're seeing here is unbelievable crimes, because the word spying doesn't matter whether it's informant or spying, it's criminal. The word investigation, Molly, amp that up. Use the word operation. It was not an investigation. You cannot do an investigation unless you have a crime. You can run a counterintelligence operation, which is illegal, whether you're a candidate, president-elect, or the president. Amp up that word. Surveillance is yeah, there was more than surveillance. They had surveillance on Michael Flynn, Carter Page, Manafort, Gates. I can't name all the people. So when we're talking about one FISA abuse, no. We're talking about, I could probably name a dozen off the top of my head. I can't confirm all of them, but I can confirm probably 8 or 9 of them, because they couldn't have been going forward without, first off, White House approval. And we now have the text messages that say the White House was running the entire operation. They wanted to be informed in every step. And we even have Obama, from Susan Rice's words, as she wrote it down after the inauguration, that Obama said he wanted to be followed by the book and be kept abreast of every step. Hello? The inauguration was happening, and he intended, after he was the president, to be kept abreast of every step. Remember what he did. And let me explain this. This is very technical, and people don't know this. Any president can still receive the presidential briefing after they're the president. That's why they're still called Mr. President. Because they still have so much stuff in their head that is so secure and so super top secret that they are protected day and night. It used to be $5 million a year to be protected, to keep the stuff in their head. So before Barack Obama left, he didn't think he was going to leave. One of his last executive orders was, all NSA information can be accessed by anyone with their single sign-on server access code. Now, mind you, he still has his top secret security clearance, and most of his people do. They haven't been revoked. Therefore, they can still, to this very day, go on and unmask the surveillance that's going on Trump, which has never stopped, because the Mueller investigation now has extraordinary FISA access. So they are probably getting further FISA warrants during the special counsel. There'd be no other reason to have that. And so, therefore, there's even more surveillance going on than anyone can possibly imagine. And the surveillance of Robert Hannigan coming over from Britain, from their NSA, to Fort Meade to spy on Donald Trump Jr. at Trump Towers. But already Manafort was already being spied on. Natalia Veselnitskaya, she was already a Russian spy. She was being spied on. The Department of Justice let her in with 3 other people. They were all being spied on. I think everyone in that room might have been already being spied on, because Donald Trump Jr., because of Goldstein, who was also a CIA operative. Don't forget, the guy who set the whole meeting up was a CIA operative. And and there was a Department of Justice, Hillary Clinton friend, what's his name? Ahmedstedt. And he was there also for Hillary. So everyone in that room was there as a setup. It was a frame. But it was nothing compared to the frame job of Stephen Halper with attempting Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, Manafort, Gates, Sam Clovis, and others. So they were more than investigating. There was more than spying. And it is more than unprecedented and scandalous. It is seditious and treasonous, and people need to go to jail for the biggest crimes that you can commit.
I mean, what would happen if an enemy came and flew planes over us and dropped bombs? We would see that as an enemy, and we would go and get them. People have to wake up and realize that Clapper and Brennan and all these people that we've been talking about, they're enemies to our country. They were going to take it down, and they were going to put their rule in place. So I'm glad to see that Trump continues to tweet about that. All right, moving on to the next one. The 13 angry Democrats, plus people who worked 8 years for Obama, working on the rigged Russia witch hunt, will be meddling with the midterm elections, especially now that Republicans, stay tough, and are taking the lead in polls. There was no collusion except by the Democrats.
The witch hunt is dead. And Herr Mueller, SS Stormtrooper, is an inquisitor.
Yes.
And he is now the witch. And we're going to weigh him against a duck. And we're going to see who's lighter. And we're going to do all the witch trials on him.
Well, Trump has him paralyzed right now because now he's marginalized. I mean, fine, keep spending whatever you're going to spend, but he's way over there. Trump's going to be moving on, other things to do.
Mueller had two tasks. To clog up the elections all the way through 2020 by these accusations and scurrilous, unverified nonsense. And the second one was to cover their trail. Okay, he hasn't covered the trail. Mueller did not cover the trail of Comey, Rosenstein, McCabe, or anybody else. They're doing a pretty bad job of that, even with the help of Michael Horowitz and Huber and all of them. It doesn't matter. They're not covering the trail very good. It's coming out more and more. And what has happened is it's now been turned. And Trump has turned this, as we say, he's turned and said he's going to fight. The war has begun. The storm is here. That's why the tea drops are like atomic bombs. And so what is happening? We see that he turned it around. He now calls the witch hunt its own meddling in the midterm elections. Do you understand that?
Oh, I see the profundity of this.
That is so profound.
Because they have to have hands off.
This was Mueller's job, was to make sure that the Republicans went down in this election permanently for good with the evil Trump, according to Mueller. And that was his job, and then hide the trail of all the guilty people and don't even look at the Democrats. No. So the witch hunt is dead. The inquisitor is now being questioned as a witch, and that can happen sometimes. The inquisitor, they would say, became tainted, and so they didn't go after the inquisitor. I loved it when that happened. And then they say that the inquisitor is the witch. He's the Russian. He's the meddler in the elections, because why doesn't the investigation end? Why would it go on to the midterms? Why would they still be casting aspersions? Why would there still be leaks out of the investigation when there is actually no foundation for it? When Mueller has said that he will not be charging Trump with anything, there's no crime, there will be no indictment, and it is not even legal for him to bring an indictment against a sitting president. Only the Congress can bring impeachment charges, not a special investigator bringing some kind of collusion charges. There's no such thing as collusion with him and his employees. So Comey's investigation should have been Trump's investigation, but Comey lied. It was never an investigation. It was an operation, a counterintelligence operation. So the point is it's turned. And now the Democrats who are attacking Trump, every time they attack Trump, they attack themselves. It's beautiful. They scream impeachment, impeachment, and then we find out that the two people, Al Green and Gregory Meeks, they have both done the very things that they should be impeached for, that they are accusing Trump of, which he didn't do. They are both sexual molesters, and the taxpayers paid off the people they molested.
Still looking for that list. I'm not going to give up, Thomas. You know that list of people in Congress that have been paid off for their sexual promiscuities.
Now, the big important point here is he doesn't have time to deal with the witch hunt anymore because that's passé, that's dead. If you still believe that, just wait around, and when the trials come around for the people who are involved in the conspiracy of the fake witch hunt, they go down one by one, or they meet their fate. It'll all just become something that's it's happening, but it's very slow because that's the way the government works. What's really happening is as many as 20 points have supposedly been shifted in the polls from the Dems to the Republicans. We heard the blue wave was coming. Now we hear the blue wave drowned in the Dems, because the Republicans are now, last I saw, 8-10 points ahead in almost all the polls. So sorry, Dems, you're going to lose. There'll be no impeachment. Many of you will have to leave. And that's with 40 Republicans in the House leaving. Those are bad Republicans. Many Republicans are leaving. Those are bad Republicans. Trump brands those who are MAGA, or they come out themselves proudly being MAGA, and they're going to get elected. And there's going to be a second term for Trump in the 2020 election. And when he's the president for the second term, it is going to be amazing, because he's going to have people who believe in him, who believe in MAGA.
Who believe in the American people. So what we need to do is we need to rally around, pay attention to President Trump's tweets, and when he recommends a candidate, we need to pay attention to that. Okay, now the next tweet was very similar. Why aren't the 13 angry and heavily conflicted Democrats investigating the totally crooked campaign of totally crooked Hillary Clinton? It's a rigged witch hunt. That's why. Ask them if they enjoyed her after election celebration. He must know something there.
Are you kidding? She wouldn't speak to anybody. She was so mad that she just went away in a room and fumed, canceled, and said it was beautiful. She canceled the fireworks on the Hudson River, and then I think the day of the election, she asked the Trump team if they wanted to buy it. I'm sorry. That's just one of the funniest things of the whole election, because she was so convinced that she had the whole party all set up. Nobody could have believed it. She wouldn't even speak to people. John Podesta came out, angrily yelled at everyone, and then went back, and that was the end of what happened after the election.
Those 13 angry Democrats, of course, those are those attorneys that are on the Mueller witch hunt, or the Russia witch hunt. But if they continue on, they too could be held accountable for meddling in the midterms. That's what I'm seeing here, because President Trump keeps reminding us we've got these 13 angry Democrats, so we need to be paying attention to them. Would you say that that's true, or would they be a part of the meddling?
Oh, absolutely. And just as Comey was accused of meddling in the election by coming out and making statements about Hillary that actually exonerated her, we could say that Mueller and his team making their false statements, their leaks, their stupid indictments against Russians who don't exist, against companies that didn't even exist in 2016, all fake. That they are, in fact, the meddlers. Yes, all 13 of them, I pointed out before, that is a conspiracy. That is, they did not recuse themselves. They should have. It is collusion at the highest order with who? The crooked campaign that spent $12 million in opposition research to engage foreign agents, Russian, British, Ukrainian, and many others, to illegally meddle in an election. Those 13 angry and heavily conflicted Democrats are friends, of course, of Mueller. 7 of them come out of WilmerHale, the law firm, one of the most corrupt law firms in the world. And WilmerHale also represented Manafort, so anyone coming out of there needed to recuse themselves, period. Plus, they were all friends. Plus, all these things. So the angry, they are so angry they make mistakes. And this is what he's pointing out. And the reason he calls them 13 angry, you know why he calls them 13 angry?
Oh, yes, a spoof off of the...
13 angry men.
Yes.
It's a fake jury.
Yeah.
13 angry jurors are going to bring an unbiased judgment. No, wrong. These are 13 people who are there to attack as part of the counterintelligence operation. And he chose some of the best and of the worst in the whole world, basically, because Washington, D.C. is the home of corrupt lawyers. So let's go back to his word here. Crooked campaign. Aha! Crooked campaign. How does exactly as you pointed out, how does the Mueller investigation have to do with the crooked campaign? Because, hello, we now know of many of the corrupt aspects of that campaign, some of which were influenced by Russians, and no person is being questioned from a Democratic side.
Well, why aren't they looking at the whole man-in-the-middle election rigging and Obama's part with the U.S. digital services? Now, these are things, people, that your other alternative independent media commentators and decoders won't talk about because they haven't done the investigation, the deep research that the conclave has done. I want to move to the last two.
Wait, I'm not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No, I got to point out that
okay.
He's also making a joke. Asked them if they enjoyed her after election celebration. She went off and cried, and so did all of her followers. They cried. They broke down and cried because they were so subliminally programmed that they couldn't get over the wrath, the anger, they turned into despondency. After that, people couldn't go to work. It was an excuse for going out and burning anyone who wears a MAGA hat. It was an excuse for whatever. Somehow, her losing the election was the greatest insult that could ever happen to these people in their entire lives. And then they put their entire life behind, the going to the Pussy Hat March or living their life against Trump without ever looking at any facts. This is the anger factor. Trump is a fighter. He knows that if you can get your opponent angry, they make mistakes. So that's the reason he harps on them. He brands them. He teases them. He calls them out. He knows Clapper's going to come out and make another lie every single time he says his name. He knows what the results of these things are going to be because he is playing them like a fiddle, and they're so stupid they don't even know it. So go ahead. Hillary lost. Keep crying. That's what he's saying. I'm moving forward. You angry men, you're making mistakes because you're angry. And crooked election, when are you going to look at the crooked election? You're now creating another crooked election.
Okay. He says in the next tweet, sorry, I've got to start focusing my energy on North Korea, nuclear, or everybody beats us up how we pronounce nuclear. Nuclear. All right, I don't know. They write us stuff and say we pronounce it wrong. Yeah, I don't know. Bad trade deals, VA choice, the economy, rebuilding the military, and so much more. And not on the rigged Russia witch hunt that they should be investigating. Clinton, Russia, FBI, Justice, Obama, Comey, Lynch, etc. Thomas, you know the etc. Twitter only has so many characters.
That's exactly right. Please let me make the list of 38 for you, Mr. President. I'll tell you who to go after. And you named him, and it's very, very important what he says here. And, I'm from the Ozarks. You're lucky that I'm speaking English. I mean, if I spoke my true accent, you wouldn't understand a word I said. Anyway, he's got to get back to work. That's what we told you. He's a capitalist. He is a businessman. He has to get back to work. The work is not fighting internal wars with the shadow government and losers like Hillary Clinton, losers like Obama, who may end up getting impeached in the end and everything he ever did being destroyed. And then we get to call him his true name, Barry Soetoro, and we get to call Michelle her true name, and so on and so forth. But what is very, very nice here is that he names, and this is beautiful. He says, investigating. In other words, he just called for another investigation. He says, why aren't these people being investigated? Now look who's on the list. Obama. We already knew the FBI and Justice Department are being investigated by the Inspector General. We already knew that Comey's leaks were being investigated. We now know that Lynch is being investigated because of her attempted blackmail of the New York Police Department, as well as other crimes that are now coming out that Lynch committed. That's the reason she beat feet and got out of there quick. But he says point blank, it's not just him, Clinton, and Russia. He says the investigation needs to be of the FBI and the Justice Department, not how they handled something, not whether there was bipartisanship, not whether there were leaks. No, the entire department.
But they can't.
Must be investigated.
But they can't because they are the culprits. They are the criminals. That's why I think, if I'm a businesswoman, I'd go in, if I bought this company, and I'd say, you know what, this department over here, this Department of Justice, it's not working for me. The whole thing's a mess. I'm shutting it down. Shut it down. Give pink slip, everybody send them home. You know what? That FBI is not working for me either because, if they can't solve crimes that are happening right under their roof, how can they solve crimes in America? I'm going to shut that thing down. Close them up, send everybody pink slips, and everybody go home. And then reorganize and open up 2 new departments to handle law and order in this country and give them different names.
That's the way a businessman would do it. We've suggested that. We've suggested they be paid by the Holman Act $1. He can't close these agencies, but he can pay them $1 a year. So if he wants to do that, he can. He needs to clean it up.
Why can't he just close the Department of Justice? Keep the building and send everybody home.
Because he's one man. And there are very few people on his team. And Jeff Sessions and the people that he's chosen thinking that they were good people and or that they were evil, and he needed evil to run that department for a while to teach him the evil ways so that he could destroy it. You got to enter into the belly of the dragon to destroy it because its outside is so shielded. So that's what you do. You take your sword and you leap into the belly of the dragon, and that's what he's done. Now, he can't just kill the dragon because he's got to destroy the dragon, get out the mouth, and let the dragon die. So that's what he's doing. So what is going on here? He's again calling for it. He's already called for an investigation. Has one been began? No. Jeff Sessions failed And as I said, now there is due cause, perfectly good reason to fire him. Trump demanded an investigation to be reversed and investigate the Dems and investigate the election collusion with the Dems and all what they did and their weaponization of the DOJ and the FBI. And what's happened? Nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing.
because Jeff
Wray
Sessions,
and Rosenstein gave it over to Horowitz.
Jeff Sessions is corrupt as can be with all of his dealings with Uranium One. And who did he do it with? All these people on this list, etc.
Now, notice that he mentions who here? Lynch. He doesn't usually mention Lynch, but he mentioned Lynch because that's a replacement for Jeff Sessions. That's a position holder for Jeff Sessions.
Oh, how
Jeff
nice.
Sessions must be investigated. And Comey, well, we already know that he's completely guilty. And so those are some of the usual suspects. But when he names Obama again, I think that's the third time that he's basically said Obama committed crimes. They need to be investigated. He's saying Lynch did. We all know Comey did. He's now saying the FBI and the Justice. Before he asked that they be investigated, he's asking again, but he has now implied through tweet after tweet that the guilty ones are Podesta, Clinton, Comey, Mueller, Rod Rosenstein, McCabe, now Christopher Wray, Jeff Sessions, Carlin Orr, the other Orr. Don't get me started. The whole group of them.
The last tweet, at least for right now, the fake mainstream media has, from the time I announced I was running for president, run the most highly sophisticated and dishonest disinformation campaign in the history of politics. No matter how well we do, they find fault. But the forgotten men and women won. I'm president.
97% of mainstream media is negative when they speak of Trump. In other words, don't listen to them. They should be closed down because of the Decency in Broadcasting Act says they can't do that. So fake mainstream media and disinformation campaign, if there was one, which there certainly was, very sophisticated, very dishonest. There are statistics that people have kept of all the lies that were never retracted. They need to be closed. So the war right now is against the mainstream media. The big war is still against the mainstream media, and Trump's tweets, Trump drops, T drops, T-anon, T-clearance is the news. He makes the news. And what's he saying? Don't listen to a word they say. For instance, they now say he's, like at 50%. No, count that 75%. Don't listen to a word they say, because no one can now defend Hillary Clinton. No one now can defend Obama. No one. Where is Loretta Lynch? Where's Eric Holder? Where is Valerie Jarrett? Big mouth Valerie Jarrett, mob boss for Chicago Daily Family, who trained Obamas, both of them. Where is she now? She's in that bunker. She gets that presidential intelligence report every single day. What's she doing with it? She still has her clearance.
Well, if it's coming from the intelligence agencies that used to run the place, they're not getting much intelligence. They're just getting fake intelligence. So it's not really doing them any good.
And as I said the other day, when he flew into New York on Marine One, I'm president and you're not, New York. And then when
by the way, that was his insider way of saying that he's the inside guy, because he put it on his tweet, so that was the real thing.
And so then after that, he was at the Naval Academy, and what did he say? In my words, he said, I'm the commander-in-chief and you're not. And now what's he saying today in his last tweet? I'm president, but the forgotten men and women won. That's the people who voted for him. I'm president. So what he's saying is, let me go back to doing the deal with China, which affects North Korea. Let me go back to doing the deal with radical Islamic terrorism. That's the deal with Iran. Let me go back to doing the deal in Syria, which is really a deal with Israel. And let me just keep moving things forward because you distracted me with the witch hunt and taking down so many of my people with law having to defend themselves in the Mueller investigation until they have to put their homes up for mortgage, to be remortgaged, and they go bankrupt. Stop all that. Let's get back focused on the fact that 2 weeks ago, you said I was getting the Nobel Peace Prize A week ago, you said, oh no, there'll never be a deal in North Korea. There's going to be a nuclear war. And we're back on the table and they're coming to New York and we're going there. And hey, it's really very little to do with North Korea. But I'm going to go ahead and let you mainstream media people play with that, since not a one of you reports a single thing positive about that. But here's the bottom line. I'm the president.